Thank you, Mr. President. Allow me to adopt the protocols already established here because of my time. I'm trying to manage 3 minutes. And also cut off all the introductions and all the niceties, and thank you for all the nice courtesies we have received here. So I'll go straight to the issues. Now, during the 41st ICAO Assembly, and just to say that this statement is issued on behalf of the African continent, and we all agree that we issue a statement, apart from the individual statements of African countries. So during the 41st ICAO Assembly, the global aviation stakeholders resolved to work together to strive to achieve a collective long-term global aspirational goal for international aviation of net zero carbon emissions by 2050 in support of the Paris Agreement's long-term temperature goal. As part of the African efforts to address this resolution, the African member states working through AFCAC have taken the initiative to accelerate the development, production, and deployment of SAF, FCIarb, and other cleaner energy sources for aviation. The initiative focuses on 4 key pillars, namely development and harmonization of policies in Africa to promote SAF and FCIarb development, production, and deployment in African states, attract appropriate technology and financing to enable building of SAF, FCIarb production facilities in African states. 2, institutional, human, and technical capacity enhancement in African states. 3, technical feasibility studies, assessments on the potential of SAF and FCIarb as a basis for public-private investment in SAF and FCIarb production in Africa. 4, resource mobilization and lobbying through the African Union, its development partners, as well as all other available funding sources to provide funding for building of SAF, FCIarb production projects in African states. When adopting Resolution A4121, member states recognize that the LTAG is a collective global goal, does not attribute specific obligations to individual states, takes into account special circumstances and respective capabilities of states, in particular developing countries, maturity of aviation markets, the sustainable growth of the international aviation industry, and that emissions may increase due to the expected growth in international air traffic until lower emitting technologies and fuels and other mitigating measures are developed and deployed. As we gather here in CAAF 3 to review and update the 2050 ICAO vision for SAF, including FCAAF and other cleaner energy for aviation, in order to define a global framework, I wish to highlight 4 key issues. 1, no particular region should be left behind in these efforts. 2, cost and affordability are central issues to implementing policies in support of the vision. 3, any potential targets or any amount of SAF, FCIarb, and other cleaner energy for aviation to replace conventional fuels should be a global target without attribution or commitment to individual state targets. 4, the global framework must be supported by a robust and targeted institutional strengthening and capacity building, technology transfers, and access to new and financing to all states, especially to developing countries, in line with no country should be left behind. The African continent will be making its contributions through the respective states who will speak and present technical papers, as well as through the coordinated technical submissions by AFCAC under the respective agenda items to further share experiences and its expectations for the global framework that will be adopted at this CAAF 3. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, A lot is happening in the African continent to address the resolution of net zero CO2 emissions by 2050. An initiative to accelerate the development, production and development and deployment of SAF and LCAAF and other cleaner energy has been launched to address the low production levels of SAF, LCAAF and cleaner energies in Africa. During the high-level roundtable discussion session on sustainable development of air transport in Africa, held on the margins of the 36th African Union Assembly of Heads of State and Government in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, on the 19th of February 2023, the ministers of the AU member states, the AU High Representative for Infrastructure Development in Africa, AFCAC, and other aviation stakeholders identified soaring aviation fuel prices that continue to put African airlines under strain. This necessitates identification of cheaper alternative sources for aviation fuels, mainly the use of sustainable aviation fuels, to ensure competitiveness in addition to enhancing efforts to decarbonize the industry by contributing a 55% reduction in GHG emissions by 2050. The session came up with a recommendation to undertake a comprehensive continental study on the development and deployment of sustainable aviation fuels in Africa. In concluding, Your Excellencies, I wish to reiterate that the Assembly Resolution A4121 recognizes that means of implementation commensurate to the level of ambition, including financing, will promote the achievement of the LTAG. Africa is ready to play its part. I call upon the states with the necessary technologies for developing and producing LCAAF and other cleaner energy for aviation to work with the developing countries, especially in Africa, to transfer such technologies to produce LCAAF in Africa so that there is a global availability of SAF and LCAAF. I call upon states and all international partners to address the challenge of access to financing by including in the framework a simplified, clear, and easy access to financing mechanisms, especially for developing states such as those in Africa. Lastly, I call on ICAO to continuously partner with all regional organizations to address the challenge of institutional strengthening and capacity enhancement of expertise in all regions. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you very much to Your Excellency Keyamo, Minister of Civil Aviation Nigeria, who spoke on behalf of the African Civil Aviation Commission. Next will be His Excellency Abdulaziz Al Dualeji, President of the General